Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's Pentana Live Educate session. I'm Richard Legg, Global Architect Manager, and this session is all about our Pentana 360 platform. As we move into this internet-native environment, it's really important that you understand how this migration will affect you, your users, and the administration process. The session will be led by Vanghie Dolleton, QA Manager, who'll guide you through how Pentana 360 streamlines access, strengthens security, and simplifies user administration while serving your business better to deliver functionality to your users wherever they are on whatever device they have with them. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave it in the live chat box and we'll respond to them after the session. Without further ado, over to you, Vanghie.
Thank you, Richard. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining. Today, we're going to walk through Pentana 360, what it is, who uses it, and how it fits into your dealership or group. My name is Vanghie Dolleton. I'm the QA Manager for Innovations, and I'm one of the local leaders in the ANZ Hub at Pentana Solutions. And I'll be taking you through the session today. By the end, you should have a clear picture of how Pentana 360 helps simplify access to Pentana's cloud applications, how security and structure work, and what it means for you day to day. Let me quickly walk you through the agenda so you know what's coming. First, we'll start with what is Pentana 360, a high-level overview of the platform. Second, we'll look at who uses Pentana 360, the kinds of roles and organizations that interact with it. Third, we'll walk through the available applications that you can access via Pentana 360 today. Fourth, we'll highlight some of the key features, particularly those that impact your daily work, things like login, homepage, and password management. Then, in the second half, we'll go deeper into identity and access, how Pentana 360 is centrally deployed, how authentication works, and how we secure access with MFA or external authentication. Finally, we'll focus on access management, admin scope, permissions and profiles, the organization, company, and branch hierarchy, how it works, and what the different admin roles can and can't do. Pentana 360 is our central cloud-based platform that brings together access to a range of modern automotive applications from Pentana Solutions. Instead of every application having its own login and its own way of managing users, Pentana 360 creates one place where you log in, manage access, and launch the applications you are entitled to. It is designed specifically for dealerships, dealer groups, OEMs, and integrated partners, and it focuses on three main things: transparency, where you can see who has access to what; security, a strong authentication and central management of users; ease of use, particularly in a cloud environment where people are accessing systems from different locations and devices. The official access URL that everyone uses is https://pentana360.com. So whenever we refer to logging into the cloud applications, this is the front door you'll be using. On this slide, you can see the Pentana 360 landing page. This is essentially the home screen users see once they've logged in. You'll typically see a list or tile view of the applications where you have access to. It functions as your launchpad. One place to click through the cloud application. The key message to users is don't bookmark multiple URLs for each application. Just remember pentana360.com and come here first. Once you authenticate here, you can then seamlessly move into the different applications you are authorized to use. Pentana 360 is used by a few different groups of people: dealership staff, such as service advisors, finance staff, sales, and back office users who need to access our cloud-based applications. And then, of course, we have the administrators, people responsible for setting up users, managing access, and ensuring the right people have the right permissions. Organizations with multiple branches or stores, for example, dealer groups that operate across several locations. For these multi-branch organizations, Pentana 360 simplifies and secures access across all stores. Users are set up once, centrally. Their access can be aligned to specific branches or companies. When staff move between locations or roles, their access can be updated centrally rather than in multiple systems. Here we are showing the applications that are available through Pentana 360 as of Q1 2026. I won't go deep into the functional details on each one today, but the aim is to give you a sense of what's currently available through the platform, how these are all surfacing through the same consistent login and access model. As the platform grows, we can add more applications here without changing the way users log in. So from a user's perspective, the experience remains consistent even as the product set expands. On this slide and the next, we've summarized the key features of Pentana 360, particularly from a user and admin perspective. Centralized user login or single sign-on. Users log in once with a single set of credentials. From there, they can access all the Pentana 360 applications they're entitled to, rather than managing separate logins for each one. User homepage, this is a homepage or landing page, as we have shown earlier. Its purpose is navigation and app launch. It's not for reporting. Password reset applies to organizations using Pentana managed authentication. If the organization uses external authentication, such as Entra ID, password changes or resets happen in the external identity provider. Device agnostic. Pentana 360 is responsive, so it works across different devices and screen sizes, desktop, laptop, and supported mobile devices. That's important as more staff access systems from different locations. Documentation is contextual. Opening power guides from an app shows guidance for that specific application. For admins, Pentana 360 provides tools to configure system settings, add, maintain, and deactivate users, manage permission profiles and security, and integrate external authentication and auditing. Access is structured around admin roles. We have branch admin who manages users and transactions just for their specific branch. Company admin manages branches within a company. And then, of course, we have the organization admin, has the highest level of access across the entire organization. Permission profiles quickly assign a predefined set of permissions to users. Admins can centrally assign which applications a user can see and can use with application management. That means you can onboard staff more quickly and ensure that only relevant apps are visible and accessible. Security features, we have enhanced security. So enhanced security is built in, including options for external authentication and comprehensive auditing, which will go into more detail later in the session. This next session is all about identity and access, how we authenticate users, how deployment is centralized, and how we secure the environment. We'll cover authentication, which proves who you are at login, And then, of course, the multi-factor authentication or external authentication, which adds stronger verification or delegates identity to an external provider, such as Entra ID. Pentana 360 isn't just a connected DMS. Some product experiences, such as eraPower, include features surfaced via Pentana 360. And the platform provides central identity, access management, and administration across the ecosystem. This slide explains what we mean by central deployment in Pentana 360. Every organization's users authenticate through Pentana 360 as the entry point to the connected applications. Practically, this means a user must be created in Pentana 360 first before they can access any connected DMS application via Pentana 360. A user is validated by their unique email address, which acts as their identifier in Pentana 360. That same email is stored against the user record in the DMS so the system can match the person signing in with the corresponding account in the downstream application. So the important distinction is that this slide is about the authentication and user identity, which the means of getting in, and permissions and what the user can do once logged in are covered later in under the access management. Central authentication is about how users prove who they are. In Pentana 360, we use a single central system to verify identity rather than having separate authentication flows for each of the cloud application. We maintain a single source of truth for user credentials. With single sign-on, users log in once to Pentana 360. From there, they can open multiple applications without having to re-enter their credentials each time. We also support federated identity, which means your organization can use an external identity provider, for example, Microsoft Entra ID or Azure Active Directory. Users can then log in with their existing corporate credentials. Pentana 360 trusts the identity provided by your Entra ID and maps that to the appropriate user within Pentana 360. This gives you a lot of flexibility. You can either use Pentana 360 managed credentials, federate it with your own identity provider, or a mix of both, depending on your security strategy. Security is a key focus of Pentana 360, and one of the core requirements is that all organizations must use either multi-factor authentication, MFA, or external authentication. Multi-factor authentication adds a second step to the login process. So instead of just username and password, the user has to provide a second factor, either via email or SMS. That extra step significantly reduces the risk of unauthorized access, even if a password is compromised. For organizations not using external authentication, Pentana 360 will handle MFA directly. Either a code sent via email or a code is sent via SMS to their registered mobile. Org admins can choose to enable SMS-based MFA, which uses the mobile number stored in the user's profile. External authentication. If your organization already uses Entra ID for corporate logins, Pentana 360 can delegate authentication to that system. In that case, your existing security policies, such as your own MFA methods, apply. Pentana 360 then focuses on authorization, deciding what that authenticated user can do. So the bottom line is every organization must have a strong second line of defense, either managed within Pentana 360 or via your own identity provider. Now, let's move to the access management, controls what you can access after login. Admin scope, branch versus company versus organization, administration boundaries, permissions, specific capabilities within an app or data set, permission profiles, bundled permissions applied quickly and consistently. Here you can see an example of the setup screen in Pentana 360 for configuring your organization, companies, and branches. This is where we model your real-world structure, your overall organization or group, the various companies you operate, and the individual branches or stores. The structure configured here becomes the foundation for where the users live, what data they can see, and which transactions they can perform. So we don't need to memorize the screen, but it's useful to see that there is a clear administrative view of your hierarchy. Let's step through the 3 levels from top to bottom and relate them back to a typical dealership group. Organization. This is the highest level entity in Pentana 360. It represents your overall business or dealership group. Organization level configuration flows down to all companies and branches. Organization admins work at this level. They have the broadest access, including high-level configuration and data management. A company sits below the organization. Think of it as a grouping of branches that aligns with your legal or trading entities. A single organization can have multiple companies. Company admins can manage users and transactions across all branches within that company, but not across the entire organization. Branch is the lowest level entity, usually a physical dealership, store, or location. This is where day-to-day operational work happens. Branch admins manage users and transactions only within their specific branch or store. So structurally, the organization sets the overall rules and defaults. Companies group branches in a way that reflects how you trade or report. Branches represent each physical or operational location where actual transactions are entered. Now that we have defined the levels, how does this structure actually work in practice? The organization company branch hierarchy is the core framework that controls how users are organized, permissions are applied, and data is separated and secured in Pentana 360. User authentication and access rights are managed centrally, but the scope of what a user can do is tied to where they sit in the hierarchy. A user might be attached to one or more branches or operate at a company level or have the organization-wide responsibilities. A permission profile is typically configured at the organization level. This gives you a consistent, standardized starting point for roles across all companies and branches. Those profiles ensure, for example, that service advisor in one branch has comparable permissions to service advisor in another. When you have specific responsibilities or exceptions, you can apply the organization level profile as a base and then fine-tune individual permissions at the user level. So think of it as structure-defined scope, which organization, company, and branch a user belongs to. Permission profiles define what a user can do. Individual overrides allow controlled exceptions when needed. This slide summarizes the 3 admin scopes available in Pentana 360: branch admin, company admin, and organization admin. The key idea is scope of administration. what part of the business structure an admin can manage, branch, company, or the full organization. All of these roles are focused on users and access administration in Pentana 360, creating, maintaining users, assigning application access, and applying permission profiles or permissions. It's important to call out that admin roles in Pentana 360 do not automatically grant permission to perform operational transactions inside the connected business applications. Those are controlled within each application and through the access that's been assigned. As you move from branch, company, organization, admin, the scope broadens. Organization admin is the highest level and typically includes advanced admin functions like user import, export where enabled, and organization-wide configuration. Because organization admin has the widest reach, assigning it generally requires formal approval from dealer principal or chief finance officer, chief finance controller to support governance and security. Pentana 360 admin role screen. This slide shows the admin role screen within Pentana 360. You can see how different roles are listed and can be assigned: branch admin, company admin, organization admin. This is where organization or company admin can review who currently has admin rights and or add or adjust admin roles where appropriate. The aim of this screen is to give you visibility and control over who has elevated access within your environment. Here we see the user screens in Pentana 360. This is where you create new users, maintain existing users, deactivate users when they leave the organization or change roles. For each user, you can see, you just don't see here because we blurred the screen, but you typically see their details, including email, which is their unique ID, their assigned roles, and permissions. So from a governance point of view, this is where this is one of your most important screens. It's essentially your user registry for all connected systems. On this slide, we're looking at permission profiles. These are the predefined profiles that exist as of Q1 2026. A permission profile is essentially a bundle of permissions that reflect a particular job role or responsibility. For example, a service advisor profile, a sales manager profile, and so on and so forth. Using profiles gives you consistency. The same role has the same rights across branches and companies. Efficiency, where onboarding new staff, you can assign a profile rather than selecting every single permission manually. So it's a controlled way to standardize security across your organization. This slide shows the underlying permission categories that sit beneath the profiles. Each permission category represents a specific area of functionality. For example, access to certain modules, data, or actions. Profiles are built by grouping these together. For more advanced admins, you can see exactly which permission categories are included in a profile. Where needed, you can fine-tune individual permissions for a specific user while still basing them on a standard profile. This layer is what gives Pentana 360 the flexibility to match your operational roles quite precisely while still keeping the setup manageable. This slide zooms in on the repair order category. It's an example of how permissions apply to specific functional area, in this case, repair orders. Within this category, you might have permissions to view or edit comments, odometer, and technician notes, or restrictions for certain roles. We're using this as a concrete example to show that permissions are not just abstract. They directly control what users can do in critical operational areas like service. On this slide, we're looking at the worksheet category fields. The idea here is to show you the available fields for the worksheet category and how that ties into permissions and day-to-day use. You will see that each worksheet entry is made up of a number of key fields. For example, things like accounting gross profit, dates, aftermarket commissions, and other operational fields needed for worksheet process. Within this category, you might have permissions to view or not the relevant fields of a worksheet. On this slide, we move from the fields to the filters, and in particular, user-specific filters in the worksheet category. What we are showing here is how to tailor filters for individual users. You can apply filters to each user that are relevant to their role. For example, a salesperson might filter by their relevant department within their branch or branches across different companies. Or a sales manager might filter across departments within their branch or branches across different companies. These filters are user specific, which means they only see the data and not where they don't have access to. So, from a governance point of view, filters only operate on the data the user is already authorized to see based on their organization, company, branch, and permission profile. So filters improve usability and productivity, but they don't weaken security. They sit on top of the same access controls we've been talking about. So if you think about the last few slides together, the structure and permissions define what you can see and do. The fields define the data you are working with, and the user-specific filters help each person slice that data in the way or in a way that supports their day-to-day workflow. So, to wrap up, Pentana 360 provides a central cloud-based platform for accessing Pentana applications. It simplifies login, user management, and security using central deployment, single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, and or external authentication. The organization company branch structure combined with roles and permission profiles gives you fine-grained but manageable control over who can do what and where. Thank you everyone for joining. I hope you enjoyed this webinar. Back to you, Richard. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, Vanghie, for giving us the 360 insight on Pentana 360. Once again, please feel free to send us any questions on the live chat or email us at marketing@pentanasolutions.com, and our experts will respond to them after the session. Thanks again for joining us, and we can't wait to see you at our upcoming sessions.